there wasn't much definitive from Omar on the quarterback situation from his press conferences and interviews today, to be honest with you. Like, nothing crazy. Like, we've kind of known this. We've kind of had a feeling about this the whole time. It's going to be one of these two in-house quarterbacks. Again, hopefully it's Fields. But we got a lot more from Omar outside of just quarterback talk. We got like more definitive statements on multiple areas in regards to the Steelers and how this roster is going to be. So let's start with Broderick Jones, the guy that we drafted in the first round a couple years ago, traded up to get him, in fact. High pedigree guy out of Georgia. Really talented, super talented, but we can all admit hasn't really lived up to the bill his first 2 seasons here. Now, he hasn't been playing his rightful position of left tackle. He's been over on the right side, but I don't think that's a good enough excuse for some of his poor play, some of his poor performance, particularly last year. I thought he was fine his rookie year. I think he took a step back his sophomore year. But Omar was asked about Broderick. What can we expect? Where's he going to play? And he left little doubt that he's going to be over on the left side. Jerry Dulack's tweet says, in case there was any doubt, GM Omar Khan made it clear that the Steelers intend to move former number 1 pick Broderick Jones to left tackle for the 2025 season. I'd say it's a safe assumption. That'll be the left tackle. Yeah, that's a no-brainer move. It really is. And we've talked about this too, that, you know, what are we going to do with Broderick? Because we drafted Fautanu, who's another tackle that was supposed to be playing right tackle last year in the first round of the 2024 draft. So it's like Dan Moore, Broderick Jones, Fautanu. You got 3 starting caliber tackles right there, but you can only start 2. So something's got to give. Dan Moore, his contract's up. He's going to be a free agent. You still have Broderick under contract. He's a guy that you invested highly in a couple years ago. And then Fautanu, you're going to be getting going into year 2, who you also invested pretty highly in, given that he's a first-round pick as well. Something's got to give here, right? And the give looks like Dan Moore won't be back. Now, there was nothing said in that tweet. There was nothing said in that Omar Khan statement about us not potentially bringing back Dan Moore or having the door open for that. But I think it's safe to say, I think we can make the assumption that Dan Moore won't be back. We could read between the lines here, because I even thought a little bit too. I was like, is there a world where we bring Dan Moore back? Not saying that Dan Moore would be the starter. Maybe you bring back a Dan Moore and have him and Broderick compete at left tackle, and Fautanu is going to be your locked-in starting right tackle. Because making the move from right tackle to left tackle for Broderick, there could be some uncertainty there, right? There could be some risk involved with that. So it wouldn't hurt having a guy that has started for you the last 4 years at that position, Dan Moore, just being back as a security blanket, right? But I looked at Dan Moore's projected market value on Spot Rack. It's going to be 3 years, $37 million. So that'll be about like $12 million per year, a little bit over $12 million per year. Steelers aren't signing Dan Moore to that. Absolutely not. No, not worth it at all. Because we don't even know, like, for next year, we don't even know if Dan Moore would be the better left tackle versus Broderick Jones. And Broderick Jones is going to be on his rookie year deal still. And again, you already invested a first-round pick in him too. You got to see what he's capable of at the position that you drafted him to be. He's been playing right tackle these last 2 years. He was supposed to be your left tackle this whole time, but Dan Moore, to his credit, was able to hold Broderick off because he was solid enough. Unfortunately, and that's the weird part about Dan Moore here. Unfortunately, he had his worst stretch as a Steeler, maybe arguably since his rookie year, like the last 5 or 6 weeks, just like the rest of the team, the rest of the offense. Because we were talking about him mid-season. He was solid over on the left side. He was a bright spot on the offensive line. Like, we were talking about him potentially getting a deal and us trading Broderick Jones this offseason. But now this is where we're at. Broderick Jones is going to get his chance at left tackle. Again, rightfully so. I think it's a no-brainer move at this point, given how the season played out and how Dan Moore finished the season and what we have invested in Broderick versus, Dan Moore's overall play through his 4 years. It's time. It's a make or break season for Broderick Jones. Make or break. Although I could see us giving Broderick another chance in year 4, even if he plays bad in year 3. I could see us give him another chance to start because we did that exact same thing with Devin Bush. Really held out hope to the very end that he was going to be a guy for us, but ultimately Devin Bush wasn't. Hopefully Broderick Jones isn't on that same trajectory, and we don't have to worry about that conversation going into year 4. Maybe we just know. We know, Broderick Jones, we're talking about maybe giving him an extension to be our franchise left tackle. That's how good he plays in year 3. Hopefully, that's what we need. He's the biggest question mark on this offensive line. Omar also talked George Pickens. Brooke Pryor tweeted out, Omar calling on Pickens' future as he enters the last year of his rookie deal. He had a really solid exit meeting with GP. Or Omar Khan had a really solid exit meeting with GP. And I can tell you he has a desire to be great. He has a desire to be great here. We have a desire for him to be great and to be great here. It seems like everyone's on the same page with that. But I can't jump the gun on that, man. I can't just read that tweet. I can't just look at Omar Khan's statement there and say, okay, all is gonna be perfect with Pickens going forward. We're gonna have no problems. He had a good combo with Omar Khan. Hell, he had a good combo with Ocho Cinco a couple weeks ago. Remember we reacted to that? I still have the same thoughts. It's like, let's wait and see. I'll believe it when I see it. Just because Pickens had a good combo with the GM and he had a good combo with Ocho Cinco, that doesn't mean all of a sudden the Steelers are automatically going to give Pickens an extension, 1. And then 2, that also doesn't mean Pickens' immature days are completely behind him either. Just because he had a couple good offseason conversations about where Pickens needs to be and just what he needs to focus on for the future and what he needs to focus on for his career. Just because there were good conversations had doesn't necessarily mean the actions are going to change automatically. And it's going to be a guarantee that everything's going to be all thumbs up. Everything's going to be a green light with Pickens going forward. This is good news, though. There's, again, like the Ocho Cinco conversation, there's nothing wrong with hearing this. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's good to hear. This is good news, but I don't think it automatically means that Steelers are going to give Pickens the bag this offseason, give him $30 million per year, nor do I think that Pickens is automatically going to be the greatest teammate, is going to be a shining light for this franchise and going to be the leader that we hope that he could be, like, overnight. We got to see it. I think actions speak louder than words in this situation, but nothing wrong with the news, nothing wrong with hearing that Con Pickens, it seems like organization Pickens are having good conversations. They're getting in alignment. They're getting on the same page. And then having a guy like Ocho Cinco who's been there, done that, who's been an elite receiver in this league, have a conversation with Pickens and say, like, yeah, there was a good understanding there. That's good. That's good. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. Maybe a contract extension does get done, though. Again, I don't think it means this is a guarantee that a contract extension gets done, but maybe, I don't know. You know, like with Moose extension last year, it wasn't like he got a ton of money. He got fair market value, I'd say. I think it was really fair. I wouldn't even say less than market value. I think it was like perfect market value. So maybe is there a situation where the Steelers and Pickens can come to an agreement and say, like, we know what your upside is. We know what your talent is. It's probably, and you combine with the production that you've had for these 3 years, you combine the upside, the talent, plus the production. like on paper, like if you hit the open market, maybe there is a case you could get almost 30 million, but it also would be fair if you got like 25. And maybe Pickens values that type of security, because 25, I think 25 would be fair. Like 30 would be fair too on the open market, given that Brandon Ayuk got 30 million, right? Just straight up production on the field for 3 years. Like Pickens got a case. He does. If he would have been healthy all of last season, he would have had over like probably 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards. Combine that with his second season, he had 1,100 yards. Rookie year at 800. That's a borderline like $30 million receiver these days. But some of the antics with Pickens does play into it. So that's what I mean. Like, just straight production, 30 million might be fair. It might be, but then maybe there's an understanding from both sides where the Steelers are like, we still have needed more out of you for these last 3 seasons. There's still been some hiccups along the way. There's been some signs of immaturity. So we can't go all the way there to 30 million with you, but what about 25? And maybe Pickens again, looking for some sort of security, 2-3 year deal for 25. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'll take that. Because I think 25 would, I think like a 24 or 25, that would be a good like middle number. All factors considering. Pickens production, some of the antics that we've gotten from Pickens the first 3 years. Having out, you got to have some sort of out after like the second season, probably, if it's a 3-year deal. Yeah, or maybe you just do like a 2-year deal. Maybe it's just a little 2-year deal. But the Steelers they don't have to go out of their way. They really don't. It's more wise for them to wait and see. But if the Steelers, based off of this comment from Omar Khan, and that's what I'm really intrigued about. How do Omar Khan and Tomlin and Rooney really feel about Pickens behind the scenes? Do they really feel like he could be that guy for them going forward and be a leader, that his worst days are behind him in terms of being a teammate and being a leader and all that stuff, being a mentor? Worst days are behind him. They really feel like something big's about to happen year 4 and going forward. Because if that's the case, maybe you do get this extension done. You try to get it out of the way beforehand, and you make it a point to show Pickens that we believe in you, right? Despite what the media, despite what the outside noise and all these other people think about you, we do believe in you. So can you prove us right? But I also think it's very fair for the Steelers to just be waiting in a wait and see mode. I think that would probably be the smarter approach. But I don't know how Tomlin, the organization, how these guys, because it doesn't seem like, it doesn't seem like teammates are against Pickens like that. It seems like a lot of times they're in his corner, but then you get some mixed reports on that too. Like just recently, Pickens showing up late for the Christmas Day game, and I think there were some other like unanimous players saying that Pickens shows up late to a lot of stuff, and it's kind of frustrating. So yeah, there's not necessarily a completely clean record for Pickens being like a great teammate or a guy that teammates will back and say like, yeah, he's got an unblemished record. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I don't think the Steelers got to do anything crazy here, though. This is cool to hear. It's a good sign, step in the right direction, but I don't think it means anything in terms of like major decisions that have to be made this offseason when you're talking about Pickens and a contract extension. Now, if Pickens is noisy, if Pickens is not happy about not getting a contract extension, then then you're having some discussions about what to do there. But I don't think we got to get into that right now because that's a big hypothetical. Next, Omar talked running back. Talked about Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren and what the potential is for either of them to be back next year. Omar said he spoke to the agent for running back Najee Harris, and that door has not been closed on a return. Also said the team will tender restricted free agent Jaylen Warren. So with the Najee stuff, that's probably true in terms there's at least some interest about having Najee back. I don't want it to be because I'm ready to move off of Najee. I'm ready to just get a whole new running back room alongside Jaylen Warren. We need 2 new running backs back there. Get rid of Cordell Patterson, move off of Najee Harris, draft a couple guys in this upcoming draft. That's what I think the best approach would be. We got to get more dynamic. We got to get more explosive. But I also I don't think there's a reason for Khan to say anything different here. Because even if you are ready to move on, at least show the guy some respect. At least show Najee some respect. Don't say like, "Yeah, we're done with Najee. Yeah, we don't think he's useful anymore for this team." At least you're showing some respect here. Like, yeah, we're talking. You never know. We're leaving the door open. But then if you honestly do want him back, then this is a true statement to make. This is a fair statement to make. Jaylen Warren. This is interesting though. With the Jaylen Warren restricted free agent thing. We're going to put the restricted free agent tender on him. And I looked into what this meant. So it's either the Steelers can put a second round tag on him, which would be 1 year for $5.2 million, or an original round tag, which would be 1 year for $3.19 million. The original round tag would mean all right, yeah, let me try to explain this thing the best I can. If another team, because he's restricted, so he is able to take offers from other teams. So if another team offers him something and we put the original round tag on him, because Jaylen Warren was undrafted in 2022, and say he signs the offer from another team, and the Steelers say, "Oh, that offer's too big for us. We can't afford that." Then Jaylen Warren would leave and we get nothing in return. But if we put the second round tender on Jaylen Warren, if he leaves, the offer's too big for us. We say, someone offers him like 3 years, $35 million. We're like, no, we can't do that for Jaylen Warren. So he leaves. We get a second rounder in return. Like we actually get something. Now, the minus for the second round tender is you're paying him a little bit more. It's 1 year, $5.2 million versus the original round tender, 1 year, $3.19 million. It's only $2 million more, so not the end of the world. But it's that's kind of interesting because we value Jaylen Warren here, absolutely. Like he's gonna be back. Like Omar Khan made it clear, we're putting this restricted free agent tender on him. We're planning on having him back unless he's offered something astronomical, I think, out on the open market, which I doubt will happen given this year's running back class. But it wouldn't, I don't know if it'd be the worst idea to have a little extra security by putting that second round tender just in case. Just in case someone offers him something crazy, right? It'd only be for $2 million more. But the Steelers always have the option to match. So I think what they would be expecting if they put the original round tag on him instead of the second round tag would be a team will offer him something along the lines of market value that we would be willing to give him anyway. So the team would be doing all the details, making up the contract for us, and Jaylen would sign it, and we're like, yeah, this is probably what we would have in terms of like a multi-year deal. This is what we would have given him anyway, and we're just gonna accept that. Like that's what I would think the expectation is. But Steelers would probably think too, if Jaylen Warren does get offered something crazy and we didn't want to match it, and we put that second round tender on him, they probably wouldn't be stressing either because we're getting a second round pick, and then we would just draft one of these running backs in the second round. So Steelers are in a good spot here with the Jaylen Warren situation. I want him back. I definitely want him back. So whatever it takes for him to get back, even if we sign him for this second round tenure, it's a couple more million than the original round tender. It's completely fine to me. Whatever it takes to get Jaylen Warren back. I think he's the epitome of what it means to be a Steeler. Like hard-nosed, blue collar, tough as hell. We need him back. We definitely need him back. And he's dynamic too. It's not just that. Like he's dynamic, he's explosive, makes dudes miss left and right. Every time he gets the ball, man, something good happens. And he took care of some of his fumble problems last year, man. Only one fumble the whole season. So I don't want to hear it from some of the Jaylen Warren detractors out there. If I had to pick between the two, you know where I'm siding. It's if we had to make a decision between the two running backs, I'm going Jaylen Warren over Najee Harris. I just think Jaylen Warren has a skill set that's tougher to replace. Much tougher to replace. Couple more comments from Omar Khan. Actually, we're going to skip one. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow. It was about the draft class. Oh, I'll pop it up real quick. Actually, we'll go over it real quick. Omar Khan said the notable strengths in this draft class are D-line, DB, RB, edge, and O-line. Didn't mention receiver, a notable exception. I would agree with him. I don't think receiver is that great of a class, especially if you compare it to some of these receiver classes over the last like 3, 4, 5 years. There's dudes that are being taken in the top 10, multiple dudes being taken in the top 10. You look at last year, I mean, man, Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, and Odunze all drafted in the top 10. And then you had arguably the best receiver of the bunch in Brian Thomas taking it like 20 with the Jaguars. Like, yeah, that was a hell of a wide receiver class. This one isn't even close. It's not even close. You've T-Mac from Arizona. I don't even know if he's better than any of those four I just named. Yeah, I mean, seriously. Probably better prospect coming out than Brian Thomas. But Brian Thomas balled out last year. Anyone that watched him coming out of LSU knew he was going to be a steal wherever a team got him late in that first round. I was hoping we'd draft him. I mean, hell, we should have drafted him. We passed on him. Picked Tano instead. But yeah, you look at some of these draft classes, these wide receiver classes. This one isn't as good. I mean, it's got some depth to it, but from the high end standpoint, it's not there. But that's something that the Steelers need. We need a receiver. So if Omar Khan really believes this, which he should, I think he's right in saying this, maybe it's better for us to get a receiver via trade or free agency before the draft. Last thing, though, in terms of Omar Khan's comments, TJ Watt. This is kind of interesting, but also one of those things where after you hear it being said or after you read what Omar Khan said here, you're just like, yeah, this is expected. This is how it's most likely going to play out. This is how it was always going to play out. Omar says that TJ Watt is a legacy player for the Steelers and wants to get another contract done. Watt is entering the final season of a contract that will pay him $21 million in base salary and count $30 million against the salary cap in 2025. TJ, is one of those legacy guys. I was around Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, and those guys spent their entire careers with us. And that's a special thing. I'm hopeful and confident TJ will be one of those guys. We want TJ here for a long time. We're going to do our part to get something done at the right time. I think he feels the same way. Yeah. He's right. Like TJ, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Cam Hayward, one helmet guys. That's how it should be. But I also don't think the Steelers should be stupid about this. Because I wonder what this new contract for TJ will look like. He got, I think, per year, whenever he signed that contract, 3-4 years ago, it was like 28, 29, almost 30 million per year, right? And that was, I think, to be the highest paid edge rusher in the league at that point. And Myles Garrett, I mean, the numbers gotten higher and higher as the years, because Bosa eclipsed it. I think Myles Garrett eclipsed it shortly after. Micah Parsons is going to eclipse it whenever he gets his new deal with the Cowboys, I would assume. But, like, should TJ eclipse those contracts, given his age and given that his play diminished a little bit down the stretch? Like, should he get, I guess, yeah, because I think the number got up to like 35 million, right? Bosa's, was that how high it's gotten? Should TJ be getting 36 going forward? I'm questioning if he should even eclipse what his deal was 3-4 years ago, like 29 per year. Again, because of his age, is he going to get better as time goes on, as this contract continues to play out? Is he getting better? And we're already questioning, too, how smart it is to spend that highly on defense. in today's day and age, like in the NFL of 2025, given how everything's so slanted heavily towards offense and how important the quarterback is. Would it be smarter to spend that type of money on an offensive lineman, another receiver, as opposed to an edge rusher? Spend that money on a receiver and instead maybe draft a couple edge rushers in the first couple rounds. I'm not necessarily saying for this draft because, again, TJ's still under contract for this year, but in the future going forward, is that a better way to construct your team? Yeah, TJ he's getting older. Impact was diminished down the stretch last year. And we're having legit questions about how smart it is to dedicate big money on the defensive side. We were just talking about this after we lost in that wild card game. We're having some in-depth conversations about how to start divvying up our money. How do we need to restructure this team? And that was part of it. Like, should we trade TJ Watt? These were legit questions, right? Should we trade TJ Watt? Is it smart to be spending that amount of money on one defensive player, particularly an edge rush, where you can game plan and scheme around them and avoid them? So that's what I'm wondering with this new contract. What's it going to be? Like, how much would TJ be willing to take a lesser number to stick around in Pittsburgh and be a one-helmet guy? We saw Cam was willing to do it with his extension last year. Will TJ be willing to? And not something egregious. Like, I think probably, 25, 26 million would be fair, right? I think that'd be fine. That'd be nice for the Steelers. Maybe not for TJ Watt. But again, if he wants to stick around, if he wants to be part of the solution and getting this team back on track, becoming Super Bowl contenders again, then I think you're gonna have to take some less money. If not, if you want more money, then it might be better for the team and TJ Watt to part ways. If you want more money, if you want to get the bag, if you want to get that $35 million, someone will probably pay you that. Someone will probably pay you 30 plus. I just don't know with where the Steelers are at if that's worth it for us. I mean, we got so many other issues. We got so many other problems to worry about. But TJ said he wants to be here, man. He wants to be a Steeler for life. Omar Khan obviously wants to happen, so maybe they'll come to some middle ground. But those are some of my thoughts when you're talking about TJ being a one-helmet guy and what it would take and just some of the ins and outs behind it, man. Like, this is what we got to think about. Like, does paying TJ Watt $30+ million for the next 3 or 4 years, does that get us any closer to where we need to be? Well, depends if we got the quarterback. I mean, that's the first thing. Depends on what our offense looks like, right? But that goes hand in hand with some of the concerns about paying that much money to someone on defense. Like, would it be better to be paying that amount of money? Like, look at how the Eagles are. I hate to just point to the Eagles team and how they got everything structured and say, oh, look how they do it. We just need to do it the same way. But, I mean, they're paying their receivers big money, big time money. They got their quarterback. They got their O-line taken care of. And then you look at the defense. Those edge rushers, like, they're talented. They're not shelling out a ton of money, though, for them. Nolan Smith, they drafted, or was it second round or late first? I can't remember exactly when they drafted Nolan Smith. Josh Sweat, I mean, they're not paying him $30 million. They got the interior with Jordan Davis, Jaylen Carter. They drafted in the first round. Moten Williams in the third round. They probably won't be able to keep Moten Williams. Darius Slay, highly paid corner. Quinyon Mitchell, first round pick. Like, honestly, the Eagles are getting away with a little bit here. All these rookies just balling out. I mean, yeah, because they got a bunch of these rookies on cheap contracts, and they're balling out playing like veterans. So that helps too. That definitely helps. But yeah, that's it for today's show. Let me know your thoughts on some of the things Omar Khan said. Yeah, what's your takeaways from Omar Khan's combine interviews? But that's it. Stay chilling. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.